Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams-Birch, and this podcast, it exists for you. Whether you're a music lover, an educator, a choir member, each week we bring guests to the show to help explore what matters in music. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Birch, and today we're talking to my friend, Erik Jacobson. Erik is the executive director of the Voces 8 Foundation here in the United States. And in this conversation, we talk a little bit about the nonlinear path of the careers that we've chosen and just tons of really cool, inspiring things there. But then we also talk about starting nonprofits, how to kind of shift and shape with them. And then we end by exploring the amazing things that you as educators, as singers can get involved with related to the Voces 8 Foundation. And y'all totally want to hang out to the very end with the nuggets of wisdom that Erik drops. It is so good. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Perform International. I do mention a little bit in this episode about our new nonprofit, the Power of Music Foundation, which is so exciting. You can now follow us on Instagram over there, but I'm really excited about the work that PI is doing to create space for more people to travel. And it's kind of like what we're doing over at Voces 8 as they're creating more opportunities for educational outreach. So no more from me. Let's hear from our friend, Erik Jacobson. Hello, Erik.
Hi, Emmy. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited about this, y'all. I got to meet Erik this past summer in Michigan with the Michigan Vocal Summer Music. There's a long acronym there.
Michigan School Vocal Music Association.
There you go. Yeah, that's a long acronym, but it was so fun. I had a lot of great new friends up in Michigan, and Erik and I got to walk around and get coffees and chit chat about the awesomeness. But then shortly thereafter, you started a new thing. What's your new thing?
I did start a new thing. Well, it was a new old thing. So I've worked with the Voces 8 Foundation since 2016, and in the background as we built a U.S. nonprofit, and I've always had it as a second job while I had a full-time position, and we've now expanded enough and grown. So as of August 1st, I'm now full-time with the Voces 8 Foundation, which means I stepped away from MSVMA.
I'm so excited for this role for you, and I'm really excited for the Voces 8 Foundation to have you working with them. Before we dive into more of the great things y'all are doing, who is Erik Jacobson, and how did you get to where you are?
That is such a big question.
So big.
I know. And also, we were joking before we started recording that I worked with some students yesterday, and they were talking about like passion for your career and like what you do. So when you ask like, who am I? I'm like, well, I'm a golfer. I'm a dog dad. I am a husband. I'm also
I love these answers.
Nothing to do with work.
Yes, I love these answers. I'm so glad you're saying that. I think it's also important because those things lead to the career that you ultimately do to support your life as golfer, dog dad, husband.
Yeah,
all the things.
Softball. I went and played in the national tournament for Slopish softball last
That's
weekend.
So cool. You were in the national Slopish softball tournament.
Yeah, I was like, why not? Why not go to Kentucky for a weekend and play softball?
Did your team win?
No, I'm assuming none of them are listening to this podcast, so I can say with confidence that no, we sucked. I did not suck, just for the record.
Okay,
but
as a team. Well, I'm glad you got to do it all the same. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what you meant, obviously, is who am I as a musician, as a music educator, as a nonprofit leader, all that fun stuff that we're.
So yeah, maybe who are you as a professional?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Is that better?
My professional voice here.
I don't know.
So I spent time as a high school teacher. I have a music ed degree from Western Michigan. I always have to shout that out because our Broncos are doing good things around the world. I spent 6 years as a high school director, got my master's in music ed, and then I decided that I wanted to leave the kind of everyday classroom, but I still wanted to do some things in music education. So I ended up moving to Milwaukee, and I was the executive artistic director of the Milwaukee Children's Choir for a year. I met Voces 8 in December of 2016, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that later, but started to help build their U.S. operations a bit more. And so I've done that in the background for the last 9 years now. Ended up coming back to Michigan, and in 2018 or so, I became the executive director of the Michigan School Vocal Music Association, which is how you and I met. So I spent 6 years leading that organization. We run all the festivals for middle schools and high schools. So I know sometimes ACDA does it. Sometimes it's a separate nonprofit. In Michigan, there's a band nonprofit and a choral nonprofit. So spent time with that organization while building Voces 8 and, well, building the Voces 8 Foundation. I can't take credit at all for building Voces 8. But then I also direct my own choir. I have a community group, the Kalamazoo Male Chorus, a group of, community choir of 30, 35 awesome guys that's been around for almost 100 years.
Whoa.
So, still get to be a musician, still get to go and conduct places, do workshops around the country, all that fun stuff.
That sounds like such a cool approach to where you got. And I love this concept of a non-linear model. Like we all start, we go to college, we teach the middle high school job, whatever we have. And then it's how do you circumvent around the globe until you settle into what you're supposed to be doing at that moment.
Yeah, it's funny because when I look back, someone asked me if someone who wasn't in music asked what I did. And it's really kind of hard to explain. But eventually they're like, man, that sounds so cool. Did you know you wanted to do that? And I was like, well, thinking about my undergrad, this probably was like a dream job for me, but I didn't know it existed. You go to school and you think you have to perform or teach. And so I did that for a while, performed for a bit, taught for a bit, and then just thought, hey, there's this whole world of nonprofits. And just like, I still wanted something salaried. I didn't want to be a freelancer that had to piece everything together, but like there's no limits to what you can do in the nonprofit world and just like accomplish musical goals without being in a high school classroom all the time.
I love that. And I think it's so invigorating to think like you might not even know that the job that you're dreaming of exists yet. Like I tell my students every day that I'm living my Disney princess dream job. I didn't know there was a school where I could be the college professor that shows up as the full version of myself every day. And it is a we line danced yesterday. We were learning rhythms. You know how we learned rhythms? Line dancing.
Well, it's funny
it was so fun.
It was funny when you came and were headlining that summer conference because those sessions were so you for our teachers. And like, obviously, you do an 8 a.m. session and it's a bunch of high school teachers in the middle of summer who gave up their summer. And it's like, you can tell that they need to be like unlocked and almost like you gave them permission, hopefully this year,
I hope so.
to like be more themselves.
I hope so. That is like my biggest dream because I didn't even know. Like you always think you have to be that same almost stamp of what came before as we learn. And I think that's great too. I think just when you have to live authentically into your personality. And I think you've done a great job of finding careers and pathways in this nonlinear approach of living into your personality.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's funny because my master's degree, I did a paper on like curriculum development in a school where it doesn't have to be tied as much to state standards. And so many choral classrooms are very similar. It's like you have to do this rep, you have to plan for festival and sight read this way, do this. And here's the good literature, here's the bad, quote unquote, bad literature or fun literature for your pops concert later, that sort of thing. And so even like when I was teaching from 2012 to 2017, I had a lot of freedom to like, what if I brought more of my personality into like what I believe is good music and what is good like choral teaching. So, it's been fun.
I love it. That's so much like that's just so exciting. I get pumped. Like we were singing this quarter and we just needed one more song in our set for choir. And so I just pulled out a K-pop song, did a little arrangement one night and brought it in. And man, it's so much fun. But who would have known like, K-pop right after
it's big now, right?
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. Okay, so non-traditional pathways. Tell us more about this Voces 8 Foundation. So you've been involved in their American branch since it was first ideated.
Yeah, exactly. So I connected with Voces 8 in fall of 2016. I did my undergrad with Blake Morgan, who many people will know as the only American, was the first American in the group. We did our undergrads together. So I went and saw him in concert after he joined the group and ended up having a conversation with Paul Smith, who is the co-founder of the group. Paul and Barney founded Voces 8. And when they founded it in the UK, they've always had this kind of even split between we want a high level performance and we want high level education. So Paul was kind of the driver of the education. Barney has been the driver of the performance, but they both sang in the group for a long time. Barney is still the artistic director, countertenor for those who watch Voces 8 videos. So I connected with Paul. I was just off of my master's degree. And of course I was like bright-eyed about the future of music ed. You know, you come off your degree and you're like, oh, I could change this. I can do this. I'm so excited. And we had a great, hour conversation at a local establishment. Whether that's coffee, it was.
That's up to you. Whatever
coffee.
Establishment is floating your personality that day.
Yeah, exactly. And I was teaching high school at the time, and I think it was probably a couple weeks later that Paul sent me a Facebook message and said, "Hey, that was really great to talk. It was great to meet you. We would love to do some expansion. Do you want to talk some more?" So, of course, yes. So they brought me on as their U.S. education manager, which was really a title that meant nothing. It had no money attached. There was no organization in the U.S. It was just like, hey, come with Voces 8 and do some workshops and see if this is a fit. And yeah, so that started, I just joined on a few trips and helped with workshops and talked about what we could build. And then that turned very quickly into Paul and I realizing that to really do the most work that we could and have the biggest impact, we needed a U.S. nonprofit. So we found some interested board members. We found some kind of those first donations to help the nonprofit go. And then in fall of 2017, we had our first program, which is our Voces 8 Scholars. There's a UK version that we mirrored in the US. So now we've had a US Scholars program since 2017, and that it's just grown over the last 9 years.
Almost 10 years. That's so exciting. So were you involved in the process of nonprofiting? Because I think one thing a lot of listeners ask, as someone who's also started a couple nonprofits, what's the process? Were you involved in that process, or did it come from the UK side? What did you guys do to make that an American establishment?
It was I was very involved, and I won't say certainly wasn't an expert at the time. Now I've worked for so many nonprofits that I do feel like I'm a bit of a nonprofit expert. That's where my niche has become. But at the time, it was learn by doing experience. U.S. nonprofits are different than UK charities. The U.S. Foundation is different than the UK Foundation. We're one in mission. We have meetings all the time. I work with Paul hand in hand on so many things and work directly with Voces 8, but we are a separate 501c3 in the U.S., which meant we had to craft bylaws. We had to find the board. And so we had some great board members that had been on boards before that kind of helped through the process. But it really was Paul and I and a handful of those close board members that, filed the IRS paperwork, that did all the bylaws and set everything up from the ground floor.
I feel like the hardest part is when you're first starting that nonprofit. Like, I'm in the process of one that just got started with Perform International, and it's called the Power of Music Foundation. It's to support organizations and schools and individuals who have not been able, because of under-resourced areas, to go on choir tour, to go on band tour, to go on orchestra tour. And I think the hardest part is like the nonprofit sprint. Like, it's a sprint to get this done, and then you wait. And then it's a sprint to get this done, and then you wait. And that sprint, like, you just keep telling yourself, these sprints will eventually become just walks that are continuous, that aren't so exhausting. But it's such an adventure. And I think anyone listening that's interested in starting a nonprofit, that's such a testament to look and see where Erik's made this a career, but you started it 9, almost 10 years ago. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to think about.
Yeah. And I've had a few friends that have started nonprofits as well. And I tell them, you don't have to start from scratch. There's this idea of what nonprofits are. But then there's kind of the inside knowledge that we've had to go through in starting these things. So I was like, we can send you our bylaws. Right. These are public things. Like,
absolutely,
you don't need to rewrite bylaws.
Not at all. And there's such great templates now. And AI is so helpful in things like this. I always tell my students, you don't have to do everything on your own. You have to know the right prompt to ask AI. So I just remember, like, the initial letter that I was sending to get the board members, I didn't feel like I sounded professional enough. And I just told her, ask AI to help me write that letter. And I just think of how much I wish that would have been there in my first nonprofit experience, just to clean up some of the rough edges. But now we know what to ask for. So it's just been a really fun process this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet. It can be daunting too, because sometimes the government works slow. So there's times where you'll get a letter that says, "Oh, you haven't done this, and shame on you." And it's like, "Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to. Let me fix that."
Right.
There's room for error, and there's room for to fix things. But yeah, use your resources. I mean, I'm sure either
Absolutely.
of us reach out to both of us, and I'll
Absolutely.
answer anything about starting a nonprofit.
Because it's so helpful. And I think a lot of my fear prior was just like, how do you get the board members? How do you run it? And it's not that big of a deal. The people that are supposed to be in the room will be in the room. So you now have this full-time job. How did you go from starting the nonprofit? Like what is these last, 8 or 9 years look like?
It's been a journey. I think I've had 6 different titles, maybe.
Wait, okay.
Because
You started as director of, educational support in the U.S. What was your title?
U.S. education manager. But it's funny because, like I said, that came with $0, I think, and there wasn't even a U.S. organization, so it was maybe from the U.K. Foundation, but I didn't like. There was no employment paperwork. It was just like, here's a title for your email signature. So just like any startup, like when you're starting, you're doing every single thing, and then as you get success, that slowly changes. So I transitioned to, at some point, general manager, at some point, managing director. For the last 2 years, I've been executive director, but also creative director of Lyra. So, because all along I'm a musician, I want to keep having artistic input. That's why this fits so well, because it is a position that I'm not just doing the administrative aspects, but like all of us, we want to keep directing and keep rep programming and things like that. And so, I have a title with Lyra, which is just help with the creative side. Sorry, my microphone got hit there.
No, it's an exciting part. I was going to interrupt you anyway. Can you define Lyra? Can you tell us, anyone who doesn't know, what is Lyra?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lyra is a new 6-member um, all American women's ensemble in the US. We started this about 2 years ago. So I think we're in our second full season right now. We did a nationwide search for singers and put together a sextet that we hope to be full time someday. We looked at the market and um, realized that there were no full time jobs for women in choral music. In the U.S., we have
Nice.
Chanticleer, we have
Yeah.
Cantus. Those are the only full time ensembles, like salaried, with singers only doing those things, um, and they're both men's ensembles. Voce State has 3 positions for women. Obviously, we have some other great groups in the U.S. like Lorelei that are doing these great things, but we really wanted to take the Voce 8 model and create a full-time group of 6 people that aren't rostered, but are the same 6 that can create something magical. So we launched this group 2 years ago. It has been a wonderful journey. The group is amazing. We're now signed with Warner Classics, so we have a record deal.
That's cool.
They've had
That's just
two.
sounds cool when you say it out loud.
I know it sounds way cooler than I feel like I'm allowed to say. It's like, oh, I'm not
We have
that
a,
cool for it. It's
we have
just
a
it was
record
their
deal.
doing. But we've been very lucky to have the connections that we do, and of course the group backs it all up with just incredible singing. So we've had 2 singles released on the record label, and we have some upcoming things that people will be able to find.
Oh, that's fun. How
Yeah,
do you
as
spell
just
it,
like a
just in case
teaser.
you're listening?
It's
Ly.
spelled Lyra,
Okay, why 2 Ys?
because it's cool.
Okay, that's the only reason.
I mean, listen, naming a group is a very long process with many people involved. I think we had probably 20 different names at some point that were considered.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. I'm pretty sure the first 2 board meetings were, is this the name of our organization? And is this our mission statement? And that was
Yeah.
like all we did on those 2 board meetings.
Well, we joke because Voce 8, when they started the charity, they it was called Voces Cantables Music, Um, and
I'm
then
not laughing. I'm keeping a straight
you're
face.
smiling. You're smiling because it's such a great name.
It's so good.
And so then in like 2018, we realized no one knows what this is. So we used to shorten it to VCM. And then people would ask, what does VCM stand for? We'd have to answer them. And then
Butches,
it
good
became,
job today.
yeah, the British, man, the British. Um, and then we realized, like, obviously the recognizable brand is Voces 8. So let's just name the foundation after the recognizable brand.
Great idea. Good name change. Did you have to go through all that paperwork to do the name change, or did
Yes.
you DBA?
No, we have to go through all the paperwork. Of course, and then now when we send our IRS determination to people, we have to also send our name change paperwork because
Yeah,
of the IRS determinations for the old name. All this fun stuff.
those DBAs doing business as so formal, so
I know.
fun. Okay, so Lyra is part of it, and then can you talk a little bit about the education side of what you do on the state side?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two biggest parts of the U.S. nonprofit is Lyra, which is new in the last 2 years, but then we started 7 years ago thinking about education. Um, and that's really expanded in the past. So, like I said, our first education project was this U.S. Scholars Program, which is a young professional singers program. It's 1 season long, a 3 week program where they come together for a week at a time and basically learn from our team. Small ensemble rehearsal techniques. Basically, it's like Vocesate Light. What's the stepping stone for young professionals that want to enter the professional choral sphere? It's different skills than what they learn in their undergrad. It's different skills than what they learn in their master's and doctoral programs. They might be studying conducting or solo voice. But what does it mean to learn the skills to be in a small ensemble and to be in a choir? So we just actually a few weeks ago had our first week of this program. So every year it's an auditioned program. There's 12 new singers that create a new ensemble. The first week they meet for the first time, rehearse a ton of rep, and put on a concert. The second week they always record at NPR Studios. We've had a really exciting partnership with NPR. So we'll be back there in November. And so if people look on YouTube and look up Voces 8 Scholars, you'll see a lot of videos from the similar space. That's NPR's main studio, and they've been so generous with that partnership. It's just a great
That's so
experience to be in the
cool.
recording studio.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And then the third week, they always join one of the professional groups on tour. So they will be in Houston in February with Voces 8. And so that's like one of the weeks they get to learn directly from either Voces 8 or Lyra or Apollo 5.
That is so fun. And when was this already in place? Like, was this a mirror of something they were already doing on the UK side?
It was a mirror. It's very different because we have geographic challenges. The
Oh,
UK
yeah.
program, most people are based within a train's distance from London, so it's the program itself is quite different, but it's the same concept. I think they usually have 8 UK scholars that come in throughout the year for a couple days at a time and learn how Voce rehearses, learn how they record, to be part of like recording projects when they need extra singers, and then a really cool part is connecting these students. I say students, but they're somewhere between 21 and 40, um, with professional opportunities. So a lot of our former scholars are now on rosters around the country. We use a lot of former scholars as teaching artists when we do other education programs. So we try to tie them into like paid work in the future.
That's really cool. So it's almost like not, it's just like a space where you can increase your impact, but still maintain your high caliber and quality.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that ties into we try to tie it into our other education programs as well. So our kind of two other branches of education is we do one-off projects. We just call them educational projects, and anyone who wants to work with us can fill out an application, and we take a look every year and say where do we have capacity. That could be with one of the pro groups. Maybe it works out to attach to a Lyra tour or to a Voces 8 tour. I would say it's more common for a member of our team to come out and do workshops, Sometimes they're larger projects. It's attaching to like a 2 or 3 day residency, and that sometimes is me. So I get to still be a workshop leader, or we also work with the amazing Anthony Tresick King, which I know you
We
know quite
love
well.
ATK.
He's
Yes, we love
amazing.
ATK.
So he's joined our team as creative advisor. So him and I work really closely on these educational projects, and or we'll send former scholars who might be in a geographic area to hit these schools as well.
So, what are we doing when we go into these schools? What are in the application process? What are the schools asking for, or what are they getting when either you come in, or ATK, or one of the scholars?
So we've recently refined the application because we really want to create bespoke programs. Um, we do have a model. Paul wrote a book called The Voces 8 Method many years ago. That's basically just a creative tool to set the stage for really engaging music education. Like at its simplest form, it's about inclusivity and fun in music making, and then scaffolding. So you could do the method. I'm using air quotes. I know people can't see me, but you can do the method with 4-year-olds that have never sung, or adults who've never sung. Someone who also isn't a music teacher could lead the method. That's why it was created years ago, because in the UK, there's a lot of music classes that are taught by non-musicians. So Paul saw that need and wrote this book so that these teachers had a tool to teach music ed without really being experts. Now, those building blocks can scaffold in a great way, and then you can use it with high schoolers, collegiate singers, all sorts of things. Um, so that's kind of the basis of our workshops, but um, there's such a variety of needs in the U.S. that like the application asks for just proposals. Like maybe you're looking for masterclass for festival. You need someone you want an outside voice for your contest or festival pieces to come in. We'll consider that. Maybe it's a large collaborative project at the end of the year that you're trying to bring in um, a handful of people as kind of headliners or to help put together these collaborative projects. We every application could look different, and we take a look at every one and say, is this something we have the capacity to build? We don't want it to be cookie cutter. We don't want it always to be, we come in and it's a 45-minute workshop that's always going to be the same, and you'll enjoy it. But how deep? What's the deep impact of that? We're trying to really focus on how we can make the most of our time with these places.
Oh, I love that. I like that individualized approach so that it's not the same. I think so often programs are really great that are out there, but they're like, here's the book, here's the thing, do the thing. And it's the same every time. And I love that you're catering it to the different locations. Do you hit all 50 states?
I should have some stats on this. No, I'm sure we don't. We in the past have looked at geographic areas. For a couple of years, we focused on like 12 areas and not only did stuff, but really tried to dive into those areas. But we had so many people that came from outside those areas saying, how do we work with you? And there wasn't a great process to say, well, let's approve a new area. So instead, we've moved all of this to an application. So we're not only working in St. Louis and Houston and the Bay Area. Now we'll work everywhere, wherever someone kind of comes to us with an idea. So we're trying to get the word out on that too. So
Yeah,
if
that's such
anyone's
a great
listening,
thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
if you want to work
I'll
with
make
us,
sure to put the link in the episode notes. Does it cost the school for you to come?
it does not cost. We do all of this. That's the great part of nonprofits. We have some donors who are really passionate about providing music ed to students. So there's some spots on the application. If funding's available, it makes it possible for us to go other places where funding isn't available. Um, but having funding or not having funding is not a factor in determining where we go, really.
Is there a window that this application is open, or can they do this all year long?
There are two windows. So November 15 is a deadline to work with us kind of second semester, and then May 15 is the deadline to apply to work with us like the following fall. So it's kind of
Okay.
open all year, and we review on a rolling basis. It's not like you have to, we're not going to look at it until November 15.
That's awesome, though. I love those type of rolling things because then you can see what's going and what the trends are and how you can bring in people to better serve it. I love this revamp. So it's working well. Last we talked, it was just starting to revamp.
I think it's working well. It's it's still young, and we're realizing we have to get the word out. So because
Hopefully
now
this
it's
helps a little.
oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. And we used to seek out teachers, but it kind of gotten to the point that we worked with people we knew all the time, and we want to meet new people. We want to go where the need exists that we don't even know about. So that's kind of one of the drivers behind this change to have incoming applications rather than us just reaching out, because it's hard as a national nonprofit to find the places that really need our help.
I think it's so important too to see that even an established nonprofit that you are successful and things are going successful, but it's never wrong to redo something or to look at it again or to change slightly to have greater impact. It shouldn't be the same all the time.
Absolutely. And we spent probably 3 or 4 years with a different model. And then we looked and said, okay, we've done some great things in this time, but our impact has been this. And that impact has been working with a lot of students. Like our numbers are pretty impressive with like how many people we've worked with in the past. But the in sitting down with Anthony and Paul and Anne Wright, who's the director of education in the UK, we said we really want to dive into deeper relationships rather than wider relationships. So we created this different application process, and then we also created a second program um, that's called the Choral Professional Learning Community that is completely to dive deep with a handful of selected schools every year.
Oh, that's so cool. What happened? These sound cool. Tell us more.
This is cool. This is the real excitement for the year. So Anthony and I created this program where we identify teachers in 2 geographic areas. We started small. We're working with 6 teachers this year, 4 in Houston area and 2 in St. Louis area. Um, and this is really tailored to be professional development for the teacher while helping with all aspects of their classroom. So we were looking for teachers in like the first 10 years of teaching. I think we didn't want any first year teachers. I think they had to, sometimes you have to learn some things
Yeah, you
there.
got to get your
But
feet underneath you.
yeah, but so we were looking for teachers in year like 3 to 10, 3 to 12 that were looking for some additional professional development. And we meet with them monthly on a bunch of topics, anything choral related, things like how to create choral texture, blend, balance, rhythm, healthy singing, how to community build within your classrooms or within your internal stakeholders like parents and teachers, how to community build within external stakeholders like audience members or people in your community to try and get them to concerts, things like sight singing or conducting or rehearsal techniques. There's a whole list of things we can talk about, but we basically met these teachers, and the 2 of us um, are their partners for the year. We have a group
Wow.
chat with the 3 of us so that if they have a question and say, "Hey, I need a piece of rep. Here's here's what the concert's theme is. Do you know any?" And Anthony will answer really quickly, or I will say, "I did this
Nice.
great piece." And we just realized that sometimes teachers are in a silo. It's hard. You go to conferences and you come back all excited, and then you go back to
Then
your
what?
silo. So
Right?
so we're doing monthly meetings with these teachers to talk about anything, any topic they want to talk about. We have group threads so they can message us whenever, and then we will go in person one time in fall to meet with our students. Anthony and I will go together so we can be teacher focused and classroom focused. Um,
Cool.
so one Anthony might pull them aside and say, "Here's some conducting little tips you can do," while I'm kind of take the class and do some other things. Um, and then the project is going to culminate in April with the schools that are in the same geographic area doing a project together. We're going to bring in a professional sextet of former scholars. So they'll get some like professional musicians that they get to interact with. We'll do, maybe a public concert or just a whole day of music making where, for instance, the 4 schools in Houston can perform for each other, talk about what they worked on all year, and then, see a professional sextet do a featured set as well.
That's so cool. What a great project. What's this project called?
This is called more acronyms. CPLC, the Choral Professional Learning Community.
Okay, that works. Definitely acronyms.
Yes, it was one of those things that's like we wrote that on a document as we were coming up with it, and then it just stayed that.
Yep.
If you have a snappy name, we would love to hear it.
Let me ponder. Give me some time. I have to marinate before I find
You seem
good.
like a good snappy namer.
I just need time to marinate. It'll come to me. I'll text you randomly.
Okay.
Be like, I got a name.
Perfect.
It's so cool. But I love these projects and that you have the space in which to create them. What is your, like, now that you're full time here, what's the biggest difference that you've noticed being able to be fully focused on this instead of having to be your side hustle?
That's a great question. I think there's so many things that music takes to do well and intentionally. And so having time to be intentional about programming for the scholars, for instance, it's really easy to find 10 songs, but it's actually much more meaningful that this year we were able to craft like a really beautiful program as far as theme and song to song and just being more intentional as a creative. And then things like this project. This wouldn't have been possible if you have two part-time people just
Correct.
working at it in the background.
So I guess that would be my last little wrap up question. So for the people listening today, one, we need to make sure they get the application link so they can apply to be a part of the school programs. What's the name of that program?
It's nameless. I was waiting for you to give name. It's just educational projects.
Oh, so that's very, very bland, my friend.
I know.
Educational
I needed your
projects?
sparkle.
Oh, we're going to come back with some sparkles. Let me ponder these. And listeners, if you have ideas, you know how to find us. DM, message, all that stuff. But I feel like these could have some sparkly names. I don't mind.
Blasted for these names.
You can totally come blast me. I'll help Eric come up with some more sparkly names. Or not. We also like not sparkles. Sparkles is
we don't want more acronyms.
So. No more acronyms. But the educational projects are so exciting because they're so open-ended for the needs of that individual school or that individual community. And then the choral learning community, CLMP.
Exactly that.
That thing is so cool. So I need to make sure that the listeners have links to all that. But I also want you to give them just some thoughts as someone who has survived the non-linear path and ended up doing something that you're enjoying. What are some words of wisdom for the listeners that you'd like to give?
That's a great question. First, I will say, luckily, all of these applications are in one spot. So the link, I think that I'll send you is just our website, voces8.foundation. There's a U.S. education programs, and you'll see information to click links to the scholars, to click links to the educational projects, and to click links to the choral professional learning community. So it's all in one landing page.
Perfect. Easy to find. Good job on that web design.
Yeah, we try. We're not good with the names, but we try.
I'm currently in web design mode, so I good job.
But to your other question, thoughts on people, this kind of non-linear path. My biggest advice, I would say, is to figure out who you are authentically, and then see how that could take shape. I think the Voces 8 Foundation would look different if it was being run by someone else. And I'm not saying better or worse. It might be infinitely better. But I've been really lucky to put some stamps on it of things I'm really passionate about. And that's the case with every nonprofit and with every classroom. Every choral classroom looks different. So I would say just allowing your personal beliefs and passions and excitements to lead you. Don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to go out on a limb. There's people that will catch you, even if they're on different limbs. And every time that you hear about a really cool project, everyone, just like in this conversation, you say, oh my gosh, this is so cool. There's people to support you, even if you're doing something on your own. So just find yourself.
But it's so good. No, it's so good. Don't even stop. It's exactly what we need to hear.
Yeah, so just find yourself and let that excitement for music and whatever you want to accomplish drive forward. One of our first board members, her name was Mary Javian. She's an incredible musician at Curtis Institute. I think she might be running the place now. She is so passionate about teaching students how to create meaningful projects in a way that I had never experienced, like to the max. And we used to have her do professional development with our scholars, and the first questions were never musical. Her first questions are, what do you care about and what do you love? And there is no music. You're not allowed to put music on the list. So people would write things like dog shelters and the housing crisis or things. Sometimes it's things in the world, and then sometimes it's like, putting my feet in the grass. Like I'm passionate about just grounding in the grass. And then the next question was, now write what you're passionate about with music. And then we created these connections between the two and thought up sometimes just wildly ridiculous nonprofit ideas. But it's like some great ideas came from that, where you would realize that there's actually infinite pathways for you to connect the things you love and make an impact.
I love that. Infinite pathways to a nonlinear approach so that you can be your most authentic self. I feel like that is the epitome of what I'm hoping to achieve on this podcast. Thank you for saying that out loud.
It's sometimes non-planned things happen. And I know that from our conversations when we met in summer, we were just on the same page about all of this. And
yeah, I'm so glad we got to have this conversation.
Yeah, listening to your podcast, it seems like this is what most people are passionate about. Just being yourself and finding that through road music.
It's so nice to have like the conversations, to know that even if you are siloed and you're the only one in your space or you're the only one in your community, that we're all out here doing our thing. We're on the limbs on your tree. You might not see us, but we're all here and we're all doing the thing, whatever the thing is.
And everyone's a good person. It's like, I was just blown away when I meet these people like Anthony, and it's like, he is such a warm, welcoming person. And he's also at the top of the game. So he works with these scholars, and they're like, oh, I know you from this. You just directed TMEA. And he's like, yeah, call me, text me, email me. We're all here to help and support each other.
It's the coolest thing. It really is such an enlightening community. Well, I think we've covered everything. We talked about who you are. We talked about your job. We talked about the amazing programs and projects. You gave us some great insight on some things that really matter. Is there anything you have forgotten to say that we need to make sure the listener hears?
I don't think so. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. And again, people are welcome to reach out to me. Take a listen to Lyra. Find their website at lyramusic.com.
With 2 Y's.
With 2 Y's. We're on Spotify and YouTube and all that good stuff. We have some new stuff coming out. I can't say too much, but I think probably by the time that this podcast is out, you might get in the holiday spirit with a few things.
Oh, I'm so excited. That's so
you seem
cool.
Like a Christmas person.
I don't know what gave that away. The sparkles? Is it the sparkles?
The sparkle.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'll make sure to put all the links in the episode notes below.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm inspired. I'm really actually quite excited. I do need to come up with some new names for those organizations, like title things, like we'll think on that. But how are you feeling? What are you getting out of this episode? I hope you'll let me know. I hope that you know that whatever you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. You're not by yourself. It's not a silo. We're all out here. We're just on different limbs. I hope you know that you matter. We all know that music matters, especially amazing programming and excellent music by the Voces 8 Foundation and whatever else is going on out there. And I'll see you next time on the Music Ed Matters podcast.